Wonderful and welcome. We are day 3 of Medium's World. Our special guest tonight is Lauralee Beaulac, who will be sharing her story into mediumship, her wisdom, and of course, taking opportunity to answer your questions as we wrap up later on this evening. Before we begin, I invite you to take a deep breath, to close your eyes, and let's just come together. Let's come together in connection, in purpose, through breath, and in this moment of time where we leave everything else outside in the world, outside our door, outside of this space and this presence here that we are gathering with each other, through the breath of allowing us just to ground, to settle in, to fall in almost, we could say a sacred rhythm of unity, a sacred rhythm of connection, of belonging. And that no matter what you've gone through today, no matter the challenges that arose, the multitasking and the many directions that you were called to show up today, we just allow for all of that to settle, to fall away, so that you can be in the presence of the here, of the now, of the breath, of the connection, in honoring the sacredness of this moment, and of course, the sacredness of mediumship, of the spirit world, of the love that is still held through space and time between the physical and the non-physical. It is our breath that holds us and unites us, and it's our love that links us and keeps us forever connected. Beautiful. Oh, there we go. I just love just the settling, just falling into this natural rhythm of your breath, the natural rhythm of connection, of community. And now just imagine that from the base of your spine, you drop a brick falling from a rope, just from the base of your spine, just to ground you here, to be present, calm, and completely at ease. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, beautiful, beautiful. All right. Welcome you back to our circle and our conversation. I am so thrilled this evening to have with us this evening Lauralee Beaulac, who of course is a medium. She refers to herself as a soul helper. She is someone who really devotes her talents to helping people in guidance to overcome trauma, as well as, illumination in terms of people, of their path, of your purpose, reminding all of us of how special we are and why we are here. Lauralee has a passion for this work, and she feels a deep, deep calling to help to make a positive difference in the lives of others. Lauralee, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life to be a part of the conversation here in Medium's World. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good, Bonnie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Really excited. I've been feeling the excitement all day. I know the momentum of the event is picking up and everything, and everybody's excitement and anticipation, and of course the spirit world so engaged and so excited, of course, for all of this too. Have you been really feeling them today?
Yes, yes, especially today. Maybe seeing some stuff today. It's just that day, right?
It's that kind of
So,
day. We're coming up to full moon too. So the vibes of the full moon, of course, helping to amplify that connection to the non-physical. And so I know I'm certainly been feeling and talking to everybody as well. Lauralee, let's just kind of dive right in. When did you start having experiences with the spirit world? Like, was it something that played out for you as a young child? Is it something that kind of brought you into a little bit later on in life? How does your story in your realization of your connection to the non-physical world, what story does that tell?
so when I have memories from when I was 3. So I remember certain events that happened, but my biggest one would have been when I was 8 and I was testing my grandmother who had passed away. And I was standing in our wheat field, and I remember saying to her, "Grandma, if that's you, do it again." So we had this big gust of wind come out of nowhere. And I just knew instantly. And I was like, "Grandma, if that's you, do it again." And then the next time she did it, she almost knocked me right over.
Oh my
So
God.
I was like, okay, so all of these, like, you would see like a flash, or you would just have a sense that something would be there with you. I always had those, but that was the first time that out of nowhere, I just challenged my grandmother to just show up.
Yeah.
And poof, there she was. So yeah, I would have been about 8. So
Wow.
we that happened in probably late August, and she had passed away that February.
Wow.
So yes.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh, beautiful. And did you find that it increased as you got older, or did you find that you kind of they stepped away from you or just disconnected a little bit? How was that for you as you got
So
older?
I would say probably from the time I was 8 and then going up till I was 17. I shouldn't say 17. It would have been like right around that pivotal point of when you get a driver's license.
Yeah.
Then it just seemed like I could feel things, I sensed things, I was always questioning things. And there was actually, my dad is a medium. So he actually had an apparition of my uncle, who I had never met before. He had a full blown conversation like you and I are sitting here talking today.
Amazing.
So it has been something that's always been in my life.
Hmm.
But until certain things happened, I didn't actually know what was wrong with me. Turns out nothing.
Exactly, right? Oh my gosh. And I think you bring, I mean, it's so beautiful in understanding that this can be genetic. It can be something that shows up in bloodlines for people and can get stronger from generation to generation. And so we tend to come from not only having a soul's history in doing this work, but it absolutely can show up those sensitivities in terms of our family and the bloodline, passed down through generations of time. So I love, as you said that. I remember my dad always saying too how he used to have these conversations with my grandmother all the time. Like it was nothing, to wake up, in the morning around the kitchen table is having coffee, where he'd say, "Yeah, so my mom was here last night and she popped in. I was up with her for had a great conversation." Like this was like, I don't know, it was normal, but you just kind of don't realize that maybe this isn't everybody's world.
It's not everybody's normal.
Not everybody's normal. I know, even I remember my youngest kiddo one day, in the frustration of things, and through some of the things that were playing up or something that happened in our home that I was really excited about. I was really excited about because I thought it was like the coolest phenomena of spirit. I was blown away by what orchestrated and played out. And he was probably about, I think, about 14 or 15 years old at that time. And he said, "Mom, oh my God, you think this is so cool. You need to know it's not. None of this is cool. Nobody else lives like this." Like he was like freaked right out, right? That's like, oh, okay. Like maybe it's not as normal as or as what I had anticipated it was. This is not normal, Mom. So now you had the
Kid, he's okay
sensitivity.
though.
Oh yeah, he's totally fine. Exactly. So did you find that, Laura, this was, this realization of your sensitivity to the non-physical world and the fact that you were a medium? I mean, obviously we can sometimes struggle with accepting this part of ourselves. And also it can be difficult for those around us to accept this as well. Did you find that you had, some challenges with other people accepting this about you?
You know what I did? The person closest to me, when my full blown awakening happened, when my whole life completely changed, he was he's the most supportive person in my life. And in that moment, he was the least supportive person in my life because he actually used the words, "I don't want you to tell anybody because I don't want them to think that you're crazy."
Hmm.
And I took that to a whole new level of you're just a jerk, in all honesty, because I think
Right.
this is the most amazing thing that could ever happen to someone, and you're sitting there judging me.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I I know I did hold back. I guess I didn't know if I should be embarrassed or ashamed or upset. There was a lot of feeling. So if if the person that you're closest to accepts you and loves you unconditionally, and then all of a sudden they put up a barrier
Mhm.
or a roadblock, it's hard not to take that personal.
Right.
So there are a lot of things that you have to realize when you have to you have to come to the conclusion that you really don't care what anybody else thinks of you,
Mhm.
because the only person that's important is you.
Right.
So I know people are like, oh, you make it sound so easy. No, it's not easy. But once you
Mm-mm.
go through and you do the work and you show up and you become authentically you, it's just so much easier.
Mhm.
So I think for me, it was hard. Lots of my friends were supportive. I actually didn't tell my family because they're the least supportive. But in saying that,
Interesting.
that
Yeah.
that was a few years ago, and everybody now knows what I am,
Mhm.
and I don't apologize for it.
Mhm.
So it can be a struggle, yes, and I
Yeah.
did find that in the beginning.
Yeah, I know it certainly was for me too. I think that that's a big piece of it. Sometimes it was the people who were closest to me, the ones that, in some way I thought would really understand this, that didn't. And people
Yeah.
that I least expected to support or understand were the ones who rallied. And I know it's challenging because, in those close relationships, there is a fear of losing, the people who love you. There feels like a loss of friendships for many mediums, and it happens.
Yes.
It absolutely does. But there's always this, as you said, it reaches this point where you just love yourself so much, and you are so good about and so good with yourself, so good about what you believe in, so good about, who you are in the world, that it's less, it almost is less important in terms of who supports you or doesn't, and you really rally with those who love and accept you for who you are, right? And I know for myself,
Yeah.
if it wasn't for, those people that are close to me, that support and encourage and have my back in all of this, it really does help to make a difference. But there are times where mediums don't have that. As you said, here you are in a family. Like, I came from a family where this was all kind of weird. We are all weird anyway. So, know, it was understood at some level, even though there were some relatives that, really were judgmental and still are very judgmental about all of this
Yes.
to this day. But to have, where, as you said, to come forward where you feel like you're the only one in your family, where nobody really accepts this, that's a hard road to travel. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm happy to say today they have all given in to the fact that she might be a little woo-woo, but she's always got the best advice. And 9 times out of 10, we all know it's guidance. So you
Exactly,
trust what you're
right?
given, right?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. There's a new song. I don't know if you've heard it yet. It's like become like my new anthem. I think that every clairsentient needs to know this song, and it's on Matchbox 20's new album. And oh my gosh, and it has to do with, honestly, I need to look it up, like, seriously, because it's such a good song. And I just, as I said, it just needs to be every claircognizant, I said clairsentient and claircognizance, in your playlist. It has to be. And it is, I Know Better, the song I Know Better. And it
Oh,
just is a song that says, I can't help that I know better. Like, one day you're going to discover that, as much as you believed you were right, I actually was. That's
I could
right?
see that.
We run into that challenge. We can't help that we know what we know, or that it is wise or sage advice. And sometimes, our best intentions, people don't necessarily, can receive
No.
it, right? And then it's just this song.
Yes.
So I really encourage it. Like, it needs to be like every medium's theme song, like it truly does. I just love it.
Very
Oh my
charming
God.
because like they are one of my favorite bands, so I'm
Oh,
definitely going
me
to look
too.
them up.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great album. It's called Where the Light Grows, or Where the Light Goes. Where the Light Goes is what it's
Oh,
called. The album. It's really, really great.
imagine that, Bonnie.
Imagine that.
Imagine that it's
Exactly. I know.
imagine.
All right. I'm curious. Do you have a special story of something that you witnessed, Laura, that really solidified your belief? I know you shared about your grandmother and the wind when you were 8, but what about now, as you're older, working professionally, even on a personal, like, do you have something that just really said, there's no way this cannot be real?
So I'm going to share with you an experience that I had. So when I first started doing professional readings, this is one of many of my favorites, but this is where I knew for sure that how I speak to you as a person and how spirit speaks as a person, they're very different. So I had a client and she had come for guidance. She didn't tell me anything about her. I'd never met her before in my life. I knew nothing of her. And she ended up showing up and her husband had left her. So of course that changes the energy in the room because now you're like, oh, this is,
Yeah,
and as a medium, you're an empath, right? So you pick up on that,
exactly.
you're feeling bad. So this woman, we go through her session and I'm asking her, um, I portrayed it. I didn't want to tell her that she was a cheater because that never goes well. And then all of
Right.
a sudden, my ego showed up and she's like, do not say that. If you say that, this woman is going to yell at you. So, of course, now I'm even extra. So I sat there, I started breathing, and I was like, Spirit, please show me this in a different way.
Mhm.
So, what they do is they show me, sorry, I they show me the word, which I would never speak to you as Lauralee to anybody, infidelity.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what? I'm like, no, 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 show me in a different way. Like you have to show me in a different way. So what they did was they made the word bigger and they bolded it. So I'm like, shit. So I knew at this point spirit was giving me no way out.
Yes.
So when I laid it out to her, I just said to her, somebody was unfaithful. And she's like, well, I can tell you right now, it wasn't me. He cheated on me.
Mhm.
So I calmly said to her, I understand that, but is there something that maybe in which way you may have showed up previous? And the best part was the woman got released because she actually
Mhm.
broke down. She admitted that that's what she had done to her first husband. And she
Yeah.
was so remorseful and she knew in that moment that this was her lesson of what it feels like when you do that to someone else.
Yeah.
So instead of her being very angry with me, she thanked me, she hugged me, she appreciated me, and she knew what she needed to do after that. I
Yeah.
have never seen her again, and that's okay. But I
Right.
just know from the day that she left, she got absolutely everything that she needed
Oh,
to guide
yeah.
her through.
So,
So yeah,
that's
that's how you know for sure they're
absolutely
not the
right. I
same.
mean, and that's the other piece of it too. So first off, you got to love the sense of humor of spirit where they're saying, "Oh, show it to you different. Let me just bold this. I'm going to type it out for you and really enlarge it so we know we're on the same page about this."
Yes.
That's and
Oh
that's one of
yes.
and that's one of the things that I, help mediums to understand is when you are receiving something, asking spirit if you're not quite understanding it, if it's not making sense to you, instead of losing or wasting, we say wasting time trying to figure it out, it's to go back to spirit and say, can you please show this to me in another way? And it's a great tool. And normally you might have a clairvoyant vision of something completely different. In this case, they're like, oh, let us spell this out for you even bigger and bolder. But you also bring up another really great point, Laura, and this is what, again, really is such an important part. It's like there's things that we know or we're being shown, and how we're delivering those messages becomes such an important part of doing this work. Like for you to be so considerate about how you shared what you were picking up in a way that was compassionate compassionate, that was non-judgmental, but really allowed for her to have the greatest healing in that moment. And that's really what the skill of doing this work, that's where it falls into, is in the delivery of things. Sometimes we're showing things that are just for our information, and sometimes we're showing things that need to be brought to the table, but spirit always knows best, always. Even though, as you said, your ego's going, no,
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to have this conversation. I've had so many readings where that awkward moment of something comes up like that. And I remember one in particular, this lady came in and she said to me how excited she was to come for this reading. She'd been looking forward to it and, had been building up. It takes several weeks or sometimes months to get in to see me. And so she was just, anticipating this. And she said, there's just one thing I just want you to know. I'm open to talking to whomever is there on the other side except my dad. I do not want to hear from him. And I said, okay, I will do my best. So when I sat down, guess what? It was only her dad that was there. It was like every other spirit ceased to exist in that moment. And I was like, I had this panic because she didn't want to talk to him. And I even said, like, you have to step back. She wants nothing to do with you. Like right? And he wouldn't. He said, I need to talk to her. This is my appointment. I made her book this because I need to talk to her. And so I just went back to the sitter and I just, said, I'm really sorry. I know that you insisted that you did not want to talk to your dad, and yet he is the only one who is showing up for this conversation right now. And she went, fine, okay, whatever he has to say, fine, but he can keep it short and get out of here, kind of thing, right? She wanted nothing to do with him. So he came in and he spoke about, his messages, his remorse. He gave an apology. And just like you said, she broke down as well. She was just sobbing in my chair over all of this. And that was, as much as she didn't want to hear that and didn't want this, and I didn't want this to be a part of what the conversation was, it was what was in her highest and best. And she received the greatest healing that day and thanked me profusely, even to this day, because of, as much as she was in resistance to it, it's exactly what she needed so she could move forward, right? Yeah. Yeah. Just like, with this lady, it was exactly what she needed. She didn't want to go there, her shame or, what she'd been holding. And yet, what a gift you gave her. What a gift. Oh my gosh.
That's pretty cool.
So, what led you? Of course, you've had this sensitivity and these conversations with the non-physical world. What was the final deciding factor for you when you knew that you needed to devote some time, your energy, and focus in helping other people in this way? What was that moment for you? What did it look like?
I would say it was probably in my level 2 program in mediumship. And I was with a group of amazing women, and we were all having this conversation about stepping into who we are.
Mhm.
And I think at the end of it, between learning about myself and how I wanted to show up, so I've always wanted to help people. That has been my goal my entire life. I
Yeah.
just help people, but I didn't realize until I started learning slash remembering that what you ask for, you will get. So you need to make sure that you have clear boundaries. So
Yeah.
now I set the intention of having people who are ready to be helped, people who are
Yeah.
wanting that release.
Yes.
So so throughout level 2, I had to actually do a lot of work on myself and step into who I don't want to be. I don't want to be able just to, I want to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk.
Mhm.
And if I can't do that and lead my life in that way,
Mhm.
then really I'm just like your typical person who's just, oh, I can do that, but I don't have to,
Right.
right? So in saying that, I just decided one day I had a reading, and this lady, I don't want to say she was upset, but she was trying to understand what the message that was given to her. And I remember just saying to her, I don't know what the message is about. It is for you. what it's saying will happen when it's supposed to happen. And when it does, you will know.
Yeah.
But this is messages for you, not for me. So it took a few months, but she did end up getting back to me, and she's like, what you said, this happened. And I was like, good, perfect. I told you it would. So I said, from
Yeah.
now on, learn to trust in yourself, because
Yeah.
I have to trust what is given to me, and I'm guided and I know, because you
Mhm.
just know, you know what you know, Bonnie. You just
Right.
know. And
Right.
so it's hard when you have messages from the other side, and there's supporting people put in front of you that are there
Mhm.
to help you remember.
Yes.
So all of these things combined just made me show up, and I just decided I'm going to be a soul helper. That is what I'm here to do, and that is what I'm going to do. And it doesn't matter, even if I just have a conversation with somebody who's having a bad day at the grocery store, if I can make them smile, that's you helping somebody. And that's how I look
Right.
at it. So it
Right.
doesn't have to be through readings. It literally is my authentic way of how I choose to show up.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, I love that you say that, because helping people, happens in many, many different ways. And helping again from that place of just the decision to do it. I think this is, you've heard me talk lots, lots. I talk lots. You've heard lots of it. As I've said, there's the willingness to help other people. We can be willing, but we don't actually take any action, or we don't go out of our way to do it. We can all be willing in doing this work, but there's something definitive that happens the moment we make the decision to do this. And once that decision is done, then it's calling the best of us to show up. And we need to do, just as you did it, if I've done it, many mediums that move through my programs, the inner work to resolve some of those things, the shadows, the past, the judgments that we place, and so that we can be clearer and keener in our messaging, as well as channels and ambassadors for spirit. So I love that too, where it's just it's the I think that's what becomes the greatest contribution that we can be to people around us in, quote unquote, helping them, is to be the best version of ourselves we can possibly be, the version that's existed there the whole time that we've never allowed ourselves to authentically express. Yeah, so
Agreed.
good. So good. Oh my gosh. And I think that, you also brought up another, part of the conversation is just like through through witnessing other people, seeing what's going on in their lives, there's a part of you that just says, I have to do something here. I've got to be able to offer some support, some guidance, give them a perspective. Like, it's almost, we say, there's this thing we call free will in the world of spirituality. And then it can reach this point where it's like, we have no choice. Like, I don't even think I have, like, there reaches like, this isn't, there's no choice here. Like, I must do this
Yes.
work. There's just a push that takes place. Yeah. And like that free will stuff. And no, I don't buy into that anymore.
You get to the line and then you're just all in. There's just
Yeah.
no more.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. And that being said, what do you think your biggest challenge was in terms of really stepping forward as a medium? Like, was it, the messaging for you? Was it about community? Was it confidence, trust? Like, what was your biggest challenge?
My ego.
Right.
That was my biggest
Yeah.
challenge of
Yeah.
all. And
Yeah.
so many people don't understand ego.
Yes.
And I can tell you today that my ego and I, we are best friend. Her name is Laurel. We get along great. We don't fight near as much as we used to. Actually, we don't even fight at all. She'll give me her like 2 cents every once in a while, and I'd be like,
Right.
then we literally have a conversation, right? I'm like, why are you having such a bad day?
Yeah.
So it could be something as simple as like, okay, so this one time I was looking in the mirror, I was like feeling really good about myself, and I'm like, ooh, having a good hair day. You know those days,
Yeah,
right? Like where
absolutely.
you're like, it's gonna be an awesome day.
Nailing life. I
So
am nailing life today.
right. So I look in the mirror and I'm like looking at myself and I'm like, oh, you look so good today. And I can just hear her, well, your hair's kind of fuzzy. And I'm like, you know what? you know what? I think I'm having a great day and we are going to have a great day. So we're just going to get our shit together, kick ass, put a little oil in our hair and keep going. And
Right.
honestly, I know it sounds silly, but if you just acknowledge her, she will
Yes.
want to be your best friend.
Yes.
So for me, it was definitely my ego because when I really came into my mediumship, there were some other mediums who had been um, doing readings obviously longer than I had been. They were very confident, and there were comments made to me about, well, you know, you wouldn't know, you haven't done it as long, or well, I've been doing this longer. And you know what? I'm here to tell you all, it doesn't matter how long you
Mm.
have been a medium or how when your awakening happened. It all has to do with you. And when you trust yourself and you become best friends with your ego, then you both show up.
Yeah.
And for me, it was very much an ego thing because I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's better than I am. They get messages faster. They're smarter. They do. It does confuse you as a medium. You'll go through different levels of confusion as a medium, as we all know,
Right. Right.
right?
Yes.
Because there's a
Yes.
lot. But
Yes.
but once you, for me anyway, once I learned to become friends with my ego, I was able to show up and
Mhm.
stop caring. I was like, you know what? That is your special gift. This is my special gift.
Right.
So I am
Right.
happy for you, but obviously we can't, like conquer and divide. Conquering meaning like we all have people to look after and
Yes.
help,
Yes.
and divide because they need your special gift over there, but
Mhm.
these people need my special gift over here. And the world is big enough for all of us soul helpers to help everybody.
Right,
It's not a
exactly.
competition.
There's no need for competition. There's enough, there are people suffering and in grief and struggling everywhere. Like there's no need for competition. This is not about who's better than who kind of game. That
Exactly.
really is a low aspect of ego. And there's no measurement in terms of how long you've been doing this work compared to someone else that defines you as to who's more skilled or more talented or more connected. We all have a unique bias, a unique way of communicating with the spirit world. And I truly believe that every single person who's sitting down in front of us for a reading, for even in conversation, it was all orchestrated. The spirit world placed them there in front of us. This was not a decision I made or the other person that made it. This is spirit saying, you are going to be the perfect one to speak on my behalf based on what my loved one is going through, what sage advice they need, what you understand, what you've lived through, and how you communicate. So there is no need for competition in doing this work. And there certainly is not one person, better than others. I explained, last night on the conversation with Christina, how the angels had said to me that everyone has the ability to sing. That's just some people are more skilled or more talented at singing than others. And all that means is there are people who have, like myself, I've been doing this for almost, 15 years professionally. I'm skilled in being able to translate the energy of how it fits and what, because spirit has given me so many signs and so many symbols over the years that it's like I understand what they're talking about. But it doesn't mean that someone coming in and newly developed, they're just getting the symbol, they're just getting the understanding of it. It doesn't mean they're less skilled or less of a medium than what I are, than I am. We're all equal under God.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
agree.
love that you were able to own that for yourself, Laura, and that you were just, I love too, like how you talk with your ego and you get your ego to work. Either she's showing up and coming along for the ride, or
Yeah,
she's taking the day off. Like
you're
it's
out. You're out. Yeah, you have to do that. So in
Mhm.
the beginning, when I was doing professional readings or just reading in general, and she would show up and I'd be like, here's a pen and paper, go make me some notes because clearly
Yes,
you're not helping.
yes,
So
yes,
so whatever you got to say next, it either better be very supportive or
exactly. Or you're out.
out
And
you
we'll
go.
talk. It's like I always say, you know what? Thanks for showing up. We'll talk later. But right now I have a different conversation to have, right? Oh my gosh. And I love that you bring it up. I think that sometimes our ego gets a bad rap. So, it's not about completely eliminating our ego. It's about learning or helping ourselves in working with our ego because we require our ego to show up in life and to do our jobs and take our kids to the sporting events and go buy the groceries and, monitor our checking account and everything like that. We require an ego to do that. The ego is what makes us human, but it's not about letting the ego lead the charge. It's about, becoming skilled at listening to that higher voice inside of ourselves and then getting our ego to be in partnership with us instead of working against us. Yeah. I
Agreed.
love it. I just gonna put some oil in my hair and we're gonna have a good day. So good. So good. Oh my gosh. Now again, there's a lot of people who are joining the call who, who are as well mediums working professionally. Some of them is starting out, taking other training, etc. There's also other ones that are maybe hesitant or about coming forward, about really moving, taking the step in doing this work or in even taking a development program or just learning more or even just accepting themselves as mediums. What advice do you have for them, Laura? Like what wisdom can you share as they're kind of moving through that personal internal challenge?
So the biggest thing most people face, and the thing that I faced, was fear.
Mhm.
So fear of getting it wrong, fear of rejection. So I would probably tell every single person that feels that way to sit and have a conversation with yourself and find out what it is that's actually holding you back. Because what was holding me back was different than maybe what was holding you back,
Mhm.
Bonnie.
Mhm.
So I believe that once you figure out what it is, it's always going to be fear.
Right.
Fear is always going to be the thing that holds you back.
Yeah.
So we just need to figure out, what fear do you have?
Mhm.
Because if it's fear of rejection, you have to ask yourself, if you're being rejected by that person, is it even worth it? Because you are allowed to show up and be authentically you. So why would you give somebody else your power for them
Mhm.
to take it and destroy you? Your power is your power. How you feel, what you want to do, what you say, what you want to look like, that's all on you. So why is somebody else more important than you?
Mhm.
Like if you I truly believe that you have to love yourself first. And
Yeah.
if you don't, you truly can't love someone else. And the reason I say that is because Creator created all of us. So we are all connected. So if I can't love myself, how am I going to show up to love you as my
Mhm.
friend or my husband or my children? So when you're open and you just accept things for what they are and people for what they are, which includes yourself, that gives you the authority over yourself to show up the way you want.
Mhm. Mhm.
So my biggest thing, if you want to take a course, take the course. Don't
Right.
let anybody hold you back. And you don't have to tell anybody because it's nobody's business.
Yeah,
Like, it's
right?
nobody's business but your own.
Right.
So, and if you're scared about doing a professional reading and you really want to start because it's something that just a burning desire in you, reach out to the online group. Just
Mhm.
have somebody show up and sit with you. Just all you got to do is start. You just have to
Yeah.
take one step. That's all you have to do. And it could
Yeah.
be like the tiniest step to even say out loud, yes, I, Lauralee, am a medium. Maybe you
Right.
have to say it 100 times in the mirror, but if you just one tiny little step, because Rome
Mhm.
wasn't built in a day,
Right, exactly.
right?
Oh my gosh,
So
exactly. And that's just it. The only person you ever need to admit it to is yourself. It's about you accepting you for who you are, whether you decide to work professionally or not, completely your choice. Although there are certain times, like I said, where I feel like I don't have free will in this anymore. I did in the beginning and now, no, not anymore. I'm just like being
you're long
pushed.
invested,
I'm
Bonnie.
I'm way
You're
too
long
invested.
invested.
My kids joke that I'm going to be still mentoring people from the other side. I'm going to be, showing up,
I could see that actually. You
right?
probably will be. That's a good thing. That's
Probably.
like many, many years down the road. But I mean,
Exactly.
like my grandkids, they'll be like, hey, I know that lady.
Keep showing up to me all the time in my meditation. And I love that you bring up too is, fear, that terror barrier that fear can create for us, that fear. And, that's the fear of being rejected, fear of being judged, fear. And I love that you say this really is about learning to fall so in love with yourself that you're not looking or seeking the approval or recognition from an external source in any way. And what I would love to add to that is it also comes down to focusing on the people who do love and accept you. Those become the relationship to invest and to nurture and to surround yourself with, because if it was not for that, even for in my own life, it's like there's been friends that have come and gone, that maybe necessarily haven't fully supported or fully understood. And you just naturally grow apart, and that happens. We look at soul contracts, and those soul contracts come to completion, and sometimes the soul contract comes to completion very organically and easily, and sometimes there's a little bit of drama that goes hand in hand, but it's always about something that I know that I needed to heal, that I needed to reconcile inside of myself in ways in which I could love myself more. And that's anytime I met a challenge, that became the question: how can I love myself more in this moment? How can I love myself more? And it's really, I think it's such sage advice. Oh my gosh. There are also, as I said, people attending this event, Laura, that are, looking to mediums or interested in mediums as a source and a way of being able to come to terms or find some peace and acceptance with the loss of their loved ones. Death is by far the greatest challenge that we have to overcome in our lives as human beings. What advice would you have to those who are dealing with the loss of their loved one right now?
I would probably, so I just want to share something before I go into
Mhm.
my my guidance on that. But I was actually at a doctor's appointment a couple weeks ago, and her and I were having a conversation, and I'm very open with my doctor, so she knows what I am,
Yeah.
and she finds it all very, I think her word was strange. And I'm like, okay, I'm not sure how to take that, but whatever. And so she was telling me she has a lot of patients who have gone to doctors, who have gone to psychologists, psychiatric doctors.
Mhm.
Oh, and these women that she spoke of actually had lost their children.
Mm.
I just absolutely, when she told me that, I honestly felt like I could have cried for
Yeah.
those mothers and fathers.
Yeah.
But she said to me, those women, she would always check in with them like once a
Mhm.
month. She just a wellness check just to see how they were doing. And she goes, all of my patients that have lost a child, they have all gone to mediums. And she goes, so I give you mediums credit, even though
Wow.
you're strange, for the
Wow.
amazing work that you do. I'm like, okay, we need to get her past the strange doctor.
Exactly.
Like
We
we
need
need
to
to
iron that
let that
out.
go.
Yeah.
But in saying that, in that moment, I realized how important all of us are. Even just people who show, even people who don't believe in mediums or don't believe in the work that we do, if they can just show up with compassion, to me, that's still a gift of what we have that we
Right.
all give. But for people who, with loved ones that are gone, I always tell people, ask for signs.
Mhm.
So I'm going to share with you. Um, my dad passed away last. Sorry, it'll be 2 years in February, and I was away when he passed. And I remember saying, because I always noticed in my readings and guidance to people, they would bring up feathers or dimes, nickels, right? Just certain things, rainbows. And I remember saying to my dad, I was like, Dad, I want my own sign. I want my own specific sign.
Yeah.
And he sent me a heart. And that's what I asked for. So I asked him for a heart. I was literally standing on a deck looking out into the beautiful bay with the stars. And I remember saying to Dad, I don't want money. Don't want money. I don't want anything like that. I don't want dragonflies. No bugs, please.
Right.
I'll just do
No
me in with the
bugs.
spiders.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
just can't do
Right.
it. Joke's over. So I asked him for hearts. And my husband, we had this little kind of a hot tub thing on our balcony. And my husband came out. There were suds in the tub, and there was this huge whirlwind that just came up and took the soap out of the tub. And then all of a sudden, it just started to float down. And my husband has a tattoo on his left arm. And I kid you not, if he was here, he would be my witness. But he had a heart-shaped bubble that covered his tattoo. I started crying because I was like, okay, I knew he was past. I knew he hadn't fully transitioned over to the other side, but I couldn't feel him. So I started talking to him. So if you don't feel your loved ones around, just start talking. Start talking and start asking for signs. Because in my own personal life, that's what I had to do at the loss of my father.
Mm.
Because I couldn't touch him. I couldn't phone him. I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Or at least it felt that way, right? So
Right.
when you just get vulnerable and you get raw and you just let go, you can just
Yeah.
ask them because they're going to send it to you. It was just wild. I
Wow.
wish I could have,
Wow.
you know how you have something so
Oh
amazing
yeah.
happen and you wish you could
Oh
just
yeah.
show the whole world
Right?
because it's just,
Right?
it's almost like it's so not believable, but you're like, you can't make this up. It is not made up. And then you have to have
Yeah.
witnesses.
Right, exactly. And there's been times where even I've experienced two spirit phenomena, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that. And everybody else is going, at what? They don't see it, right? I'm like completely aware and in the moment because it was for me, that's the difference. I love that your husband had witnessed that for you. And I love what you offer is it's yes, ask for signs from your loved ones, but you can ask for specific signs, something that's
Yes.
special and unique that's going to make it with certainty that that is who they are, right? I mean, I say this all the time, of course, in the classes that if you're developing mediums, like spirit wants you to succeed, they will do everything they possibly can to help and support your development. And it's no different with your loved ones. They want nothing more than to let you know that they're still present, that they're still with you. And so signs, asking for a sign is such a beautiful thing to do. I also invite you, to add to that, just, ask for them to come in a dream. Ask them, we talked a little bit. One of the questions that came
Yes.
through last night had to do with someone experiencing their loved one in a dream. For a lot of people who are grieving, they find that they're not dreaming of their loved one. It's okay. It's the grief that creates the barrier. But if you want to incubate that dream, is just to write it down on a piece of paper and just I asked to have a visit with my loved one tonight during my dream state. And every night, like keep that by your bed and read it every single night. And then what happens is that it's like an invitation. You're inviting them to come closer and inviting them to come closer. And you will indeed have a dream of them. You will. They want to show up for us. They really do. They really do. Oh my gosh, so great, Laura. I can't believe, like, wow, the time just flies by in these conversations. I'm going to go over into the chat forum here and take a look at some of the hellos and questions, of course, that are coming in here. Hello from Holt, Michigan. Hello, Faith. Hello, Brenda, coming in. Oh my gosh, we have another Michigander. She says another person from Michigan this evening, from Macklin, Tullabee Lake. Hello. Oh my gosh, yes, the live prayer and meditation. I'm all about the prayer. I'm all about the meditation. Those who have trained with me, oh my gosh, meditation, meditation.
No.
Oh my gosh, people loving it. Donica says, my ego. That's how she says it. My ego is so strong because she keeps saying you don't have connections like all these women who felt it at a young age. There are so many others that you know who are more connected than you are. What do you have to say to her, Laura?
I am going to give you some guidance advice that I got many years ago. And one thing that people need to realize, and this is where our ego comes from, there's always going to be somebody prettier, smarter, funnier, better at something than you are. But you know
Mhm.
what? You are the only you. So you get to show up in your own authentic way. So it doesn't matter what they have for gifts because you have you. And nobody's ever, your creator created you in
Mhm.
perfection.
Mhm.
So why would you sit there and use your thought process to be like, oh, this person is better at this and this person's better at that? who cares what they're good at? Let's talk about what
Right.
you're good at.
Right.
Because you're probably
Exactly.
super funny and you're probably super smart and you're probably the most empathetic person that we'll ever meet. But
Hmm.
you just need to say it
Hmm.
and then go.
And oh my gosh, like I was all like, woohoo, like if I could high five her right now, like yes, yes, yes to all of that. And I think here too, Donica, the other piece to really understand is we all come into this at different times in our life. We all have, an awakening in terms of our connection to in spirituality, and mediums, will come in at various times in their life long after. I mean, there's two distinct categories of mediums. There are those who have child onset abilities, and child onset abilities like Laura and myself, where we've had experiences from the time of being very, very young in connection to the spirit world. It doesn't mean that someone with child onset abilities is going to utilize their connection to the spirit world when they're younger. They don't really come, it's like they need to come into themselves, just as Laura did, as I did, to be able to step into our, the authentic truth and full acceptance and everything, where that connection was throughout our whole life, but we were not ready personally or as individuals to do something with it. The second distinct category of mediums are the adults who come in, for individuals who maybe had no realization of the fact that they were mediums, they had no connection with spirit, they had no phenomena or anything that even ever led them to believe they could do this work, until one day something happened in their life, maybe a loss of their loved one. They might have taken some training or something like in Reiki or some other energy work that all of a sudden opened up that doorway. They might have been in a car accident. I have one lady who trained with me. This is no word of a lie. She had zero connection to the spirit world, and both of her kids were extremely sick one night with the flu. They had like super high fevers. She's already well into her 30s. She's up through the night. She, of course, puking babies. So she's like, cleaning laundry and cleaning her kids and settling them down. And once she got them all settled, she sat down on Facebook, and she just sat down and she was just scrolling through Facebook. And there was a post that came up about somebody's loved one who had died. And all of a sudden, boom, she started getting all of these downloads, all of these messages. And she was shocked because she had never had any experience like that whatsoever in her life. Just the fact that she was sleep deprived was all it took in
Poor
order
girl.
for spirit to get through to her, right? I know exactly, right? So it can happen in different times, but it's always the perfect time. The perfect time. It's like even an understanding. We have soul contract, and there's certain things that our soul is here to experience. There's wisdom to be gleaned. There's karma to be resolved. There's all of these things that are playing out in our life, whether we're conscious of it or not. And then all of a sudden, we meet a timeline where our soul says, "And now I'm ready to take on my mediumship abilities." Right. So it says there's no judgment. It's knowing that whenever you step into it, it's absolutely perfect because it's when your soul was ready to express itself. Right. Okay.
Just stay open, hey? Just
Yeah.
always stay open to whatever happens around you. Because as
Yeah.
Bonnie always says, even in nothing, there is something.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh. My little sayings, right? Everything is something, and there's always, even in nothing, there's something too.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. So great, Jonica. Thanks for that. Just, being just so vulnerable in it. And again, that comparison is a beast. So don't do that. It's absolutely perfect for where you are. Hello, Brenda. Brenda says, when I was in level 1 and at the start of level 2, I always felt like I was behind everyone else. But in our assignments together, Laura, you helped me realize I was exactly where I was meant to be on my journey, and that maybe I was ahead in some ways. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Brenda.
Oh,
Welcome.
oh my gosh, Laura, look at that, right? Just how easily and effortlessly you made such a positive difference in her life and in her mediumship development journey. Oh my God, that's beautiful. We're always I love that. Exactly where we're meant to be. We always get there's another analogy. We it's not important about when we put our canoe in the river to go downstream. It's just more important that we at some point we do. Doesn't matter when we get in the boat, it just doesn't. Yeah. And she also agrees loving yourself is the key to success in life, no matter what you do, no matter what. Gail is saying, very interesting. Who mentors who? Um, who mentors who? I don't understand the question in that, Gail. Can you clarify a little bit in terms of what you mean by that? Even if you want to jump on and just use your microphone to join our conversation real quick to clarify, that would be helpful. I think if I'm oh, here we go again. Oh, mentoring from the other side. Exactly. That's exactly it, right? Who's really mentoring? That, right? Spirit is doing the
Yes.
mentoring without a doubt. Right? It's like coming back to what Laura said about infidelity. It's like,
Oh,
oh yeah, I'll show it to you, but here you go, big and bold. This is how it's going to be. And you just begin to trust and let yourself just be guided in that way. Yeah, there's a lot of learning, a lot of mentoring that takes place through those connections to the other side. I'm still learning. Like I don't know about you, Laura, like, do you find that even in the readings
yes.
you're doing, like there's still things that are happening that you're going, oh my gosh, I am forever the student in this.
Yep. When people ask me that, I'm like, although I'm a soul helper, I am still a student. No
Yeah,
matter what, there is so much you will never stop learning. And I love how people are always like, I'm done learning lessons. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're done learning lessons, that means you have to die. Do you want to
right,
die? Well, no, I don't want to die. So let's just keep doing the lessons and make them fun.
right.
Because, like, if we are honest with ourselves, the more we resist something, the harder it is.
Mhm,
So if you just learn to accept it and trust in faith that everything is going to work,
mhm.
it always turns out better than you could ever have anticipated it to.
Right,
And then you're
right.
like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing.
Yeah,
And we are like, I told you, you just have to trust. And it seems so like just that little word, those words, faith and trust.
mhm,
Our egos get so crazy and they're like, oh, I don't know. Well, and the way I explain this to people is I breathe. I breathe freely. Like I in through my nose, out through my mouth. And I trust that the air is always going to be there.
right.
That is how I look at creator and faith and how it all shows up. It's like air.
Mhm.
You breathe it in. You trust that it's there.
Right. It's no different. I love that you use that as an analogy. That's powerful because it's even in sitting down, how many times I've heard that a lot of mediums say too, like when I'm going to go through this process and what if spirit's not there? No, it's about having faith in the fact that spirit is going to be there. It's like where there's intention, there is spirit. Like, they're there. And so we begin to it again, it's just as we breathe, as we trust the air is going to be there, it's we trust that creator is going to be, that the angels are with us, that spirit is, rallying for our success in doing this work. So good, so good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Faith is saying, I'm always looking for more ways to love myself more. Yeah, that's the key, right? How can I love myself more in this moment? Yeah, it's such an important thing. So, Christina, hello. Christina says, I get messages from spirit. I can connect to guides. I'm having trouble personally connecting to ancestors without a medium. I am clear hearing or thoughts. They do come to me in my dreams. I have a hard time connecting with loved ones and other people's loved ones. I know I have these abilities, but I think that I've been blocked by programming with religious trauma and the rejection based of that trauma. Any insight you can share for her here, Laura?
So that to me sounds like a limiting belief that you have in the background. And one of the biggest things, so my family also comes from a very religious background. But when you trust, for me, when I learned to just trust in myself, because you really have to take the feeling out of it. So if you just let it flow, I truly believe that if you set the intention, accept everything for what it is, and ask for them to come forward, they will.
hmm hmm You might also be surprised, thank you for that, in the many ways that they might be showing up for you already that maybe you aren't even realizing it's spirit communication. That can also be a challenge there. I would agree with Laura. I believe that there are some limiting beliefs, and again, probably something fear-based. The fear of, if you say you've got religious trauma based on that, I totally understand that to my core as well. And so, with that is some of that conditioning can be the very thing, even if you believe differently on a conscious level, there can still be a subconscious paradigm that's affecting that experience for you. So here again, and that's a part of, my training program, is that it really is about the whole self. We take a look at not only what communication with the other side, how to communicate in their messaging. We also look at, moving through the limitation of these false beliefs, of shifting in consciousness so that we're clearing the veil, that spirit is able to reach us more accessibly. And so we do our part to ensure that we are as clean and clear within the congestion as the veil as we possibly can, in order to make that connection and more cohesive between the physical and the non-physical world. But to me too, it feels like this is fear. And just as Laura said too, continue to put that intention out there, continue to ask, because the law in the universe says, ask and you shall receive. And so this is about just knowing, even if you don't have the conscious awareness to your loved one in those moments, it's just knowing that they're going to continue to work with you. They're going to keep trying to get in, keep asking, because they are going to show up for you. They truly are. Yeah, that's there's that conditioning can be so paralyzing, even
Yes.
when we're consciously trying, to do otherwise, right? I love this.
Yeah.
So Anne is asking this question. Laura, can you talk more about how you see or work with trauma as a medium?
So when I sit down for a reading with a client, I actually just, it was interesting. So I actually do follow-ups now. So I'm working with a couple clients. So what'll typically come up, um, it can be domestic abuse. It can be like there's financial abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. I seem to check off the boxes on a lot
Spiritual
of these.
abuse, there's all kinds. Yes.
There is a lot of those. So when I sit in session, or even when I'm working with myself, because let's be honest with ourselves, even though we do the work, there will still be triggers that come up for us. So we have to sit, and I have to sit and take that time and find out what it is that's affecting me, because it does interfere with my guidance for myself and for my clients. So when something comes up and it starts to pick at me, I I'll write myself a letter, and I call them. So if you're writing, I'm just going to use love letters. I have written love letters to myself. I have written angry letters to myself. At the end of the day, I will either drown them in water, I will burn them, I will do anything just to release it. But
Mhm,
I do not ever type anything. To me, there is something in my guidance and what I am as a medium. It's very much hands-on. It's
mhm,
touching, it's feeling, it's releasing, but it's all done through my own hands.
mhm.
So there are certain parts of me that I had a client who was going through some stuff. She was an addict, of different varieties of addictions. Um, when I had seen her a couple times, and I remember asking myself, did she get what she needed? Our session was 2 hours, and I remember asking, did she get what she needed? And she messaged me the next day and she said, I have gone to counseling for the last 7 months,
Mhm,
and you gave me more healing and closure than I have had for the last 7 months. And you know what? Today she's changed her whole life. And it's all been in her guidance, was a lot to do with writing. It had a lot to do with forgiving, to stop being angry at herself for the mistakes she made.
mhm,
So there are traumas there's a trauma response as to why you're doing something. You just may not realize it, but when you do, you finally have the power to stop it.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Oh my gosh. And so, of
Okay.
course, this is where Laura and I are, and so are parallel within the work we do because everything in my, in it is trauma-based therapy or trauma-based reconciliation. And so, here too, when I'm witnessing, so, spirit will often, when I sit down in a connection, they will often tell me about someone's traumas before my sitter might even have had a chance to even verbalize it. So they're giving me intel ahead of time so that I have the knowledge as to how to compassionately guide them into being able to open up or to begin to, even begin to have an open or honest conversation about some of the things that have happened to them in the past. Sometimes the very spirit that I'm connecting with is the one who did hurt or wounded them and is coming forward with an apology. That can be extremely therapeutic for someone. And just like Laura said, the transformation that takes place through people having those messages, or even in terms of the coaching programs that I facilitate, this also has to do, it's always based on the guidance. I might think I know what this person requires or needs in order to move forward. I've got all kinds of tricks up my sleeve based on my own trauma recovery, my own trauma healing journey. But it's when I sit down and connect, and the guidance, our loved ones and our angels know more about what someone needs than what we do. And the simple things, like Laura's saying, these letters that need to be written, the things in terms of where we need to forgive ourselves, etc., are all part of the equation that makes the greatest transformation for someone. I think here too, our traumas are a gift, or not our traumas, sorry, they're a part of our awakening. So I don't want to overlook that. They are, but our triggers are a gift. Our triggers in the moment give us an opportunity to make a conscious choice to be able to respond to something in a different way. So instead of the trigger having the power over us, we have the power to make a different choice in that moment. And so a lot of, the things, the counsel, the guidance, and these perspectives can be the very thing that help and support people in what we could say in how we work with trauma within that deeper scope of healing, that can take place. What happens in a session is completely undescribable, and we as mediums get to witness the miracles take place. We're just the messengers. We're the messengers, and the work and the healing is what happens between God and that individual. It's amazing. Yeah, amazing. Such a great
Right.
question, Anne. Oh my gosh. You're so welcome. People are just saying so much gratitude. You're so welcome, Haley, Julie. Stay in your own lane, she says, with our abilities. That's I understand that's exactly it, right? We're not doing readings on people without their permission. We're staying in our own lane. We're doing our own work. We're not, when you look at that competitive conversation that we had about
Yeah.
who's doing what and who's no, stay in your lane, stay in your lane. I remember, Laura, when I first started doing this work, I remember there was, people were finding out about me, word of mouth was happening, and people are finding out there was a medium in the community, and my calendar was filling up. And there was another a medium in another community that said I was stealing her clients. And this became a really big deal and got back to me. And I went, oh my God, stealing her clients. I'm like, I'm not wasn't like I was out on the street corner, with a sign and tripping them as they walked past the house or anything like that. I was like, they were finding me. Spirit was leading them to me. I wasn't doing any of the stealing of clients, and it's just, I was so busy doing my thing. I was just in my own lane. I didn't know what was going on in the, on the outside world, right? And that's a big part of it. It's like just stay focused on the work you're doing, what you feel called to do, and let everyone just do what they're called to do. Like this, just stay. I love that. I love how you say that, Julie. Just stay in your
Yes.
lane. Just stay in your
Yep.
lane.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So good. Donica, you're very welcome. So yes. Yeah, Christina's saying definitely subconscious. She really relates to what we shared here, Laura, in terms of those belief systems, something blocking that connection. Yeah, definitely something to move forward to. Julie says, I have trouble connecting with my mom. She's passed over. She's been gone 24 years. Is it because she is not wanting to be available?
No, that has not. The spirit always wants to communicate, and they always. Do you ask for signs?
Oh, she's still here, Julie. I'm looking at the message board. So if you want to just, you have anything? She said, not always, not always.
I would maybe try, and I suggest that maybe you give her a sign to send you, whether just pick something. I don't want to put anything in your head. I just want you to think of something
Yeah.
and that be your sign for your mom. Because if you set the intention and you ask her for it and you continually ask her for it, she will find a way to get it to you.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
just pay attention, like Bonnie said earlier, that there are other, she could be already communicating with you, but maybe you're just missing the sign.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura. That's, I mean, it's so great. I mean, there's these men ask for the sign, ask for other ways for her to show up. I think sometimes we think we have an idea about what that needs to look like, and not necessarily can our loved one match that, but they come in other ways or in various different ways. The other thing here too, Julie, is also knowing this is all about vibration. So even when we think about even on our physical plane, we all have an energy, we all have a vibration. We have, some people are in a low vibration, some people are in a high vibration. The same can be said about the non-physical world. There are spirits of high vibration and there are spirits of lower vibration. And dependent on where we are on our vibrational scale, will determine whether or not we align with them, whether we sync up. So this could be that just that your mom and you are a bit out of alignment. So as a medium, different things you can do, of course, doing your work is, as we said, we always meet ourselves on this journey. So we need to be doing our healing. We need to be reconciling our everything that, our resentments, our hurts, our wounds, all of those things we talked about. And all of that begins that emotional entanglement. Once we can release that, it allows for the vibration to raise. And so then we can get into sync with spirit. The other thing is when you are in connection and you've created and you've extended that link for a loved one to come forward and you're not experiencing them in that moment, one, trust that as it has been asked, so it is. So where your intention goes, spirit is there. So you can simply say to the angels, adjust my vibe so I can sync up. Right. So instead of you trying to figure out how to connect or where she is, ask for your spiritual team to help you, and they will create a shift in frequency that will allow you to sync up where that communication can happen. I often will do that if I'm doing a reading for someone and I get a sense that there is a spirit kind of farther away. I can't quite connect. I'm not really receiving them. I ask to sync my vibe so that I can draw myself closer vibrationally to them. So everything's vibration and it's always about trying to adjust the alignment. I completely agree with Laura, though. It's not because she doesn't want to be available to you. The second thing is that spirit goes through healing on the other side. And depending on what transpired during their life, will determine how long they're going through their own healing on the other side as well. So sometimes they're not available because they are going through the healing. And you would think, well, she's been gone 24 years. But honestly, I mean, it's taken me, like I look at even like my grandmother, like it probably took me, she died when I was a baby, and I didn't start having experiences with my grandmother until I'm really going to age myself here on the call now. I only started having experiences with my grandmother about I'd say 3 or 4 years ago, and so that puts me at about 49, 48, 49 years old. So just know that sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with us. It's simply about what's going on the other side. But I agree with Laura. It feels like she's been trying to come in various ways. So ask for those signs. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, so great, so great. Okay, so here we are. Let me just see everybody saying thank you. Yes, asking differently, exactly. Perfect advice. So great, you guys. Thanking for the conversation. You guys are so welcome. This has been so much fun, Laura.
Thank you, Bonnie. It
Oh,
has been.
it truly has been. Really such a joy. And of course, to everyone who's been tuning in, thank you so much, of course, for your participation, your messages, and I think this is so great. I love this too. Christina just shared here. My papa was my favorite person ever, and he told my medium to tell me to clean the house because the dirt was annoying. That was literally it. She said, right? Sage advice, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So,
No filter.
no filter. Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you very much, Laura, again, for being a part of tonight's conversation. To everyone, of course, who has tuned in and who has shared not only in energy and purpose, but of course, bringing your questions. I hope that there is something from tonight's conversation that really, really helps to support you in moving forward in your life in a positive way. I want to wish everyone a beautiful evening. Again, God bless each of you for being here tonight. And I will see you tomorrow night as we continue our conversation. And before I make a mistake, I just want to get back to the schedule so that I don't like mess it up because I'm blonde. Yes, I was going to say exactly who I thought it was. I'm going to say tomorrow night we get to welcome Pamela Beamish to the conversation. And so I'm excited to continue that. So until we meet again, God bless everybody. Laura, from my heart to yours, truly,
Thank
truly so
you.
much love. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.